meeting to order, 7 o'clock. Rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Audley is Chapman.
Here.
Mark.
Here.
Patton.
Here.
Tyler.
Here.
Zalman. Absent. Patrick.
Here. Approval of agenda, we've got several items that need to be added. You have an agenda with yellow marks on it. All of those yellow marks are added, plus there's two more. There's a rising tide resolution to commit us to 10% of the rising tide grant that we're getting. And then Brian is going to ask for a grant to be the fiduciary for the grant for the VFW.
Who is?
Brian is going to ask for that. So they're pursuing
VFW
for VFW grant. They are pursuing one, but found out they couldn't because it had to be a government entity of some sort, school, village, township. So,
VFW
yeah, right. So, those two items plus the B is approved signing of the development reimbursement request for $142,082.10. Make a decision on the floating dock for the park grant. Approve performance resolution for government agencies. E is approve applying for a tribal grant for RMS fiduciary agreement. And F is approve budget resolution number 1, 2016-17. With those corrections, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll support.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion has carried. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the November 9th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the November 9th, 2016 meeting minutes.
Been moved and supported to approve November 9th meeting minutes. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion has carried. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting on Tuesday, November 22nd, 2016.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Been moved and supported by Clark and Chapman to accept the special board meeting minutes for November 22nd. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion has carried. Public comment. There is none tonight. Report. Scott.
Great, thank you. Okay, I will try not to talk fast, but there's a lot of information to tell you, so I try not to overwhelm you, but we'll go with the report first of all. Everything's kind of pretty standard from month to month. We are up 35% from last year. Throughout the last 6 months when I've been calculating it, we're about 35%, so we're keeping pretty busy. So, and I anticipate we'll probably be at least 35-40% at the end of the year than we were last year. So, any questions on just the report itself? No? Good. Okay. One of the things that we're going to talk about here later, and I'll discuss it. You want me to discuss it right now, or do we have it in connection?
Yeah, just briefly.
Okay. Our records management system that we write our reports on is kind of a sinking ship. I had a chance to talk to a couple of you about it. It's an old system. It got bought out. Actually, it's been sold and bought 4 times since I've been here in the last 8 years. People keep buying the company out, and we keep changing programs and stuff like that. Inevitably, the one that just bought it, I think they're basically going to squash it and just get rid of it for competition purposes, which is going to leave us kind of in a pickle here next year when we don't really have a report system to use for doing our reports, tickets, and all that other stuff. Just about a month ago, we get a notice from the server. It's called DDP or Interact. they're no longer gonna provide technical support for it, so they basically are gonna wash their hands of it. It's gonna basically say, it's gonna leave us in a quandary as far as next year, what we're gonna do. Right now, we're kind of talking about switching to RMS. RMS stands for Records Management System. The Sheriff's Department currently has RMS. It's a great program. Unfortunately, they operate a system that's totally different than ours. So anything I enter into my computer for report-wise or whatever, they don't have access to that. I don't have access to theirs, but yet we're dealing with the same people in the same communities pretty much on a regular basis. So it's kind of ineffective as far as being able to share information, to be able to exchange information and stuff like that. If we were to switch today to go into their program, which is a very good program, it's about anywhere from about $6,000 to $8,000 per agency to do that. Unfortunately, in our budget, we don't have $8,000 to do that. Mancelona's in the same ship. Bel Air's the same situation. Elk Rapids, we're all in the same situation. We don't have $8,000 to stick into a program that we desperately need, but just can't afford it. Last week, we had a meeting amongst all the local villages, and we talked about how could we jump into records management system for the best possible price. If all 5 of the villages do it at the same time, instead of being $6,000 to $8,000 a piece, it ends up to be about $4,000 a piece because we get a multi-discount. And it makes it so we're all, not only the Sheriff's Department, but all the villages within the county are operating on the same system. One of the things we talked about, and we'll talk about in the action item, is that we could write a tribal grant in order to try to get those monies. And it ends up being about $14,000 some odd dollars. I've got the exact amount if you need that. So if we do it all together collectively at this point, it, number one, gets us a lower price, but number two, it gets us in a position where we need to be short of our report system now. It's going to be failing here pretty soon. And that's what, so in other words, last week I ended up writing the grant. I've got the grant all done. It's through a tribal grant, and it's all done and ready to go. I'll share that with you guys if you want to. But one of the things that you're going to look at, we're going to talk about in the action item, is an agreement. And I kind of drafted this up today. It's just basically an agreement between all 5 village police departments that if we do the grant process, any monies that we get to it, we're going to utilize it for the report system. It's just more of a fundamental, let's say,
Line of action.
yeah, kind of, so that no one can come back and say, we get some money, we don't get some money. One of the things I'm going to ask that you guys do is that we actually use the village as the fiduciary, because if we get the grant, they can't write a check to each village police department. And again, we don't want that, because I don't want to have to buy a program for the village of Central Lake, because then we're back to the $6,000 to $8,000 if we do it individually. If we do it collectively, then it becomes a whole lot cheaper. One thing I forgot to tell you is that next year, with part of the 911 surcharge and the plan for 911s, we're going to have onboard computers in our cars. In order to do that, we have to have a better management system than we currently have. The system we have will not operate on the MTTs, and that'll be in the car. So at some point, we are going to be scrambling to get caught up to where everybody else is going to be. I mean, I'm talking about the village of Central Lake. So if we don't get into a new records management system soon at a reduced rate, I think we're going to be kind of looking back, scratching our heads, and trying to find some money that we don't have. So this is a good way. It's a win-win. If we get the grant and we're able to get into RMS, it immediately saves the village of Central Lake anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 right off the bat. Next year, every year we pay about $800 a year for our records management system to be in it for the maintenance and all that other stuff. We immediately lose that cost. And then every year thereafter, RMS only costs us about $250 a year to have a maintenance fee for that. So we save about $4,000 to $6,000 right off the bat. The first year we save at least $600, and every year after we're saving about $600. So it's a win-win all the way around. So, but in order to do it, we have to have permission from boards, and I've got a letter of agreement that you guys will get a chance to look at here and we can talk about. That will kind of set everything into parameters as far as who's going to do what, where we're expecting to do, and all that other stuff. So it just kind of spells it all out. So.
Any questions for Scott? Thank you.
Thank you.
Stan?
You'll notice there's a couple oddball things on my DPW report. One of them is, we drain the fire hydrants. We drain some of them down every year so they don't freeze, because they're in contaminated areas, so the hydrants are plugged. What was one of there's one other one on there. Oh, one other thing. I always come to you guys and told you I've never had equipment break when it's sitting in the garage. It only breaks when you wanna use it. Well, let me tell you. We took the 94 plow truck out in the first snow, and we took the 02 plow truck out in the first snow. Everything worked good. Next morning, we went to take the 94 plow truck out of the garage, the headlights didn't come on. Ground wire broke in the process of us plowing. So, we get that fixed. The next day, which is Friday, when we got snow, so we went to back the 02 truck out of the garage, in the brake chamber, popped a hole in it. So, if that wasn't it, Saturday morning, when we had to get both the plow trucks out and the loader, the bucket on the loader quit working Saturday morning. So, that statement come back to haunt me because all three pieces of that equipment broke down.
In the garage.
In the garage setting, so, and I've always said that, and I kinda give you a little breakdown of the overtime so far from the snow plowing. Any questions?
I would ask how does that compare to last year, but I know last year was
At this time, we didn't have any at this time,
No, it didn't.
year before.
we had a lot.
That it? Thanks.
Thank you.
No DDA. Correspondence, just a letter, President's report from Northern Lakes Economic Alliance. You guys all received that. So, I'll have a couple other communications in my report. Committee reports, Joe's gone, Leela, sewer and water,
Nope, nothing.
okay, Bill,
Just that Chief has completed his employee evaluations for the two part-timers, and I've still got some more to finish up on it, I guess, and then he'll be available for us.
Melissa's not here, Brian?
I just got one thing. I had been talking to Sam after the last meeting about the new overtime law that was going into effect December 1. Well, right after our meeting last month, on the 22nd of November, U.S. District Judge Amos Mazant in Sherman, Texas, agreed with 21 states and a coalition of business groups, including the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, that the rule is unlawful and granted their motion for a nationwide injunction that was to take effect December 1st. So we don't have to do anything about the new overtime rule until somebody tries to pass it through.
I see.
That's all I have, thank you.
Rob?
Yeah, let me just give you what we got going here. You need one? At our meeting, we just sat down and we went over short-term items, 1 year or less. I'll just start with those. These are all been things that have been in the works. The video cameras, let me pull that file here. I had ADT come out and they came back at, I have a number sheet here. I'll just pull the whole file. ADT was $1,300, $85 a month maintenance. Habitat has yet to contact me on their proposal. What they are 4-camera, 4-channel systems. And you can choose where you want the cameras. There's been talk of having 2 in the direction of the bathrooms without violating any laws. And both companies were on board with that and actually showed us where they should go. The next proposal was, Chris Corbett and I spoke, buying it ourselves, having Eden Electric install it, and that's another way to go. We're still waiting for bids to come back on that one. I haven't talked to Eden yet, how much it will cost. Let's see here. Trees planted, got in contact with Porcupine Hollow, 1.5-inch diameter trunks, are $95 each. I went down there and it looks like we could put in 5 and continuing every year, adding a few more. The next item, let's see. The directional signs, this is a new one for the business districts at the north and west boardwalks. With the new docks going in, we want to have more people coming downtown. We started looking at what we could do, and what we thought is at the end of the dock, at the north end and at the west end, we have a directional sign. Rachel started putting that up, and it would look something like this, with where you're at, all the businesses labeled, so when you get off, you say, oh, okay, Mammoth Brewery is right there, our distillery, Blue Pelican is that far away. It's all on a map on it, right there on a sign. The sign cost, let's see here, we need 2 of them for the west and the north side. That's not looking. Fast signs would be. $518 for the 2 signs, and that includes layout. Layout means that they're going to put all graphics, and this are all the aluminum, metal, so that way it's not wood, you can't carve anything in them. Very similar to the signs you'd see alongside of the road. I talked with Corey from the DDA, he'd be willing to split that because it's advertising for the DDA. So there would be some cost savings there. Let's see. Number 4, currently we have a kiosk at the campground that is rather large, 4x4 posts. And it's faded, it doesn't look, looks dated. So Rachel and I started thinking about what we could do a little bit different and having a message board on the bathrooms. You'd have 2 of them, very similar to this. So that way you open it up, you'd have one that has all the menus of all the restaurants in town as you're going to the bathroom, underneath the lighted, the soffit. So you can say, oh, okay, we got this, we've got Fudgies, we've got that. And then another one, just like this one, be next to it, have general information, emergency numbers, Lyle's numbers, all that sort of stuff. And again, Corey would be willing, since we're having menus on the one, to help offset the cost of that. And we would put the memorial back up that is currently on the kiosk. Number 5, road paving, we talked about that at the last meeting. It's $10,000, it needs to be done. There is no more road there, it's just decimated. We'd have to take that out of park money. Currently we're at $100,000 in parks. $80,000 is going to go towards the grant, that leaves us with 20, 10 for the roads, and then 10 more would be left in the savings. But we'll talk about that in a moment. The new pavilion at the farmer's market. I went over to Bel Air and looked at their farmer's market, and what they did is they just used a traditional pole barn and then wrapped it in aluminum, and all they did was, on the inside, they just put metal roofing, so that way to keep the birds out, and it's all lit up that way, and they have outlets on the top as well, so vendors could plug in, but you wouldn't have to worry about other people getting in there and plugging in, unless of course they had a ladder. But that's, again, what rising tide money, but it's still in the realm of the campground and public property. Number 7, the beach expansion. Sam says that's a go for the spring. Last fall, Lyle was worried about, or I shouldn't say worried, concerned about trailer parking. How many trailers are truly campers down at the campground? Who is really doing, I mean, because anytime you go there, you can count 30 or 40 trailers, but there's very few campers midweek. Are they people from the weekend? We've got to kind of figure out what's going on there, because that's going to fall into number 14 on the list here. So those are our short-term goals for this year to get done. Intermediate items, what to do with the old white docks. there's talk of putting them on the south side. We have more than enough room north of Stembeck's. We don't want to get rid of them just yet. Let's see. We have to look and see where we're going to store the floating docks, which is an action item, because we're going to need room on the south side because those floating docks have to be pulled up and stored someplace. Number 10, what's going to cost to pull these floating docks? Currently, it costs us $300 in, $300 out for the 3 docks at the north end. So we've got to start considering the money that is going to be needed to pull those docks. Number 11, again, before Lyle left, he had commented just to make it look better down at the campground, putting a cement pad for the dumpster, and then putting a wooden stockade fence around it. And that way we could mount signs that say for campground use only. Advertising for the campground. Start looking at the bigger picture, the internet, that sort of thing. RV magazine, trade shows, that sort of thing. Currently we have $300 budgeted for that. That's already been in the budget. Long term, 13, resurfacing the tennis courts. Melissa had talked about a tribal grant, years ago now. I'd still like to see that come to fruition. Again, campsites on the hill. Lyle had asked about 5 campsites on the hill. I have yet to look at the numbers to see if we can actually, if it's feasible, and if it is feasible, how many years would it take for us to pay those 5 additional campgrounds or campsites on the hill off. Number 15, a person in the community had asked me about putting a trail for handicapped accessible people and a mountain bike trail on the 40 acres that we currently own at the end of North Street. Again, these are long-term things. 3 years now, when our budget gets a little bit more stable and the things are done at the park, we can kind of catch our breath and see what and where we're at on things. There is a lot of interest in a mountain bike trail. Several people have said they'd help construct it. Having never constructed a mountain bike trail, you know, we can talk to people from Glacial Hills. In front of you, you all have your budget from the campground right here. Rachel put this together, thank you. Last year, we had $48,173 in reservation. This year, the number in the lower right-hand corner is the one that I'm most interested in, and that's our projected for next year. We've already got bookings for $51,978, so we're already ahead of last year, and it's only December. And we currently have $23,672 in deposits. And that is it. And if any of you have an idea or you want to add to this list or say, hey, you know, I think this is more important, this is just a roadmap so we can say, okay, what do we got to do, where are we going with this, and it tells us what we need to do. So if you folks think that there's something else that needs to be added, or, you know, it shouldn't be added, or there's something that needs to be more important or less important, by all means, please share. And that's it.
Anybody have any comments for Rob?
Good presentation.
I have one concern.
Sure.
It's the video cameras.
Yep.
I understand their usefulness.
Yep.
What I don't understand is who will monitor that. Where does the filming get dumped into, and who looks at it after?
What would happen is, all these systems, you take a hard wire from the router at the campground and you use underground cat cable, Cat 5 I believe it is. You have to trench a line to the current pavilion, put a DVR in there, and if for some reason that line got cut, the DVR would still be monitoring it. But normally, if we have the Cat 5 wire running to our router, it could go directly to Scott's office on his computer or on his phone. You'd have an app on your phone and he could look at those. So that's where we're looking at. Now, again, that goes back, do we need it? I don't know. Scott, I mean, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, I can see where it's valuable when we have certain incidents, but I'm not sure.
Mhm.
We talked about the cost versus,
Yeah, exactly. And with our new boardwalk, we're gonna have 5 docks there with a lot of boats there now. Do we wait till something happens on the boardwalk? Or do we go with it? I see both sides of it. I can go either way. I'm not,
These will be infrared, nighttime, they'll be infrared, light for nighttime monitoring.
I don't know, I don't think so.
Well, the park's lit up good enough, he said that it would see it.
Oh, did he?
The ADT guy that we talked to,
Okay.
if not, we could change a little bit of the lighting.
so.
The ones I got were infrared.
Mhm.
And
So I mean, it's something that we can consider. All of them can be installed in less than a day. And that would allow us also to look at the playground, where we have had, how many problems a year do we have down at the playground?
3, 4, 5 a year.
3, 4, 5. And how much money are we talking about?
Not a lot,
Okay, just your time.
just time.
All right. So again, do we need it? I mean, how often are the bathrooms vandalized? That was our other concern, the bathrooms. That would cut down on that if someone knew that, we knew when they were coming and going for that day. If the same person's there 5 days in a row and that bathroom gets vandalized, that's a person of interest. You know, and I think if Scott were to say, hey, do you know anything about this? They might think, and you show them their picture, you know, I don't,
From a monitoring sense, it'd be pretty awesome if I could just pull up my phone and say, are we having problems after 10 o'clock or when are we having problems? Just kind of spontaneous, you know,
mhm.
checks on stuff. I mean, I do that every so often, just drive by there at night and stuff like that, but.
They could cause a deterrent too to people vandalizing if they thought they were on camera.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's good, it just depends on how much money you have and what you're willing to spend versus.
We also have kids down there that carve their names in picnic tables. It's gonna pick them up.
Yeah,
right to-
Ride skateboards in the,
And every time they write a nasty word in the picnic table, we pull it and sand it. And
I think the campus would feel
The
safer
time.
too. Knowing that they were.
And I think about Lyle losing fishing poles out of his boat, tied up to the docks.
well, the nice thing about the cameras you were telling me about, you can actually change and monitor where they're viewing, so that, you know, if I knew the camera was only shining in a certain area, you know, how would I know what it's gonna be doing tomorrow, you know? So, there's some variety, at least ability to move the cameras from time to time too.
and the one that we would install was $1,000, and Eden Electric would get up in the joist and run the cable. You could go for a little bit money, instead of getting a 4-channel, 4-camera system, you could go up to an 8-channel. I mean, that's overkill, that would be, I mean, that would be more like a prison. But again, that's an option, you could buy an 8-channel and put 6 cameras on it, so. But again, that's something you could do in a day. We'd have to look at our budgetary items and see where we want to put it to. That's it.
You could buy a 4-channel, and if it works out that you need more, you could buy another 4-channel.
Yeah, you could buy 2, then, yeah, that Cat 5 cable should be able to handle 2 signals, so. Okay.
I got a question on the trees. Do we have any trees in the swamp that we could use?
No, the deer are baiting
Okay,
all the way up.
okay.
And I think Rob's talking hardwood trees.
Yeah, maples.
And we don't have.
Anyway, but-
Okay. Very good, thanks. I'm up next. I had the overtime issue on my report as well, so that was deemed unconstitutional. We don't have to worry about it. I authorized the purchase of 2 computer towers, one for Rachel, one for Scott. Rachel's been having issues with her system, to the point where she had to leave and take it down and then go back and pick it up. And it's about 5, 6 years old, I think, and that's about the time when things start going downhill. So Scott, given the cameras that he now uses and potentially the new RMS system, the system, the computer that he has now is slow and will become slower. And he's asked for a new tower for that. Unlike Rachel, he will just take the tower and then input data from the old into the new with the help from Bill Gollinger in Bel Air. Rachel's gonna have the Traverse City Company transfer all of her data from the old into the new. So hers will cost like $1,500 and Scott's is about $1,200, so a little less than that, I think. I remember right. I have that figure here. Yeah, Scott's will be $1,138.41 and Rachel's will be around $1,513.41, depending on how long it takes them to transfer the data. So just to let you know that it's going to happen. So, I treated them as two separate purchases, so we didn't violate our $2,500 minimum. So just an update with Michael Pria's situation. His wife has reserved a spot at the park, site 11, and he was not the one that signed the certified mail that we sent to them. She is the one that signed it. It was requested that he do it, so I don't know what repercussions we may run into down the road, but I'm just bringing it to everybody's attention. So, communications planning, you all received a copy. This came from Place Main Company, the advisors to the Rising Tide Project. That's something they would like for us to adopt. You have it in your possession to read and go over, and it'll be on next month's agenda. And you all received a letter that we got by way of email from Amy Drake. You've all read that. I'm going to read you my response. It says, "Dear Amy, I have reviewed your email and the questions that you have regarding the leaf drop-off site and the notice of office closures. The council stopped the leaf drop-off service when the DEQ said we had too much waste. This was done over a year ago. Residents can still take yard waste to the township waste receiving station on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Sam reminded me after I sent this letter out that we would take leaf drop-offs, but they had to bring them down to the DPW site, get them inspected, they could dump them there, and then the boys would pick them up and haul them away. So we didn't shut it down completely. We offered an amended service, but she did not. I did not inform her of that in my letter. So. And then regarding the office closures, I said I directed the clerk treasurer to post the closures on the door. The deputy was not available to fill in. I take full responsibility for not posting it on the website and or Facebook page. If the need arises again, I will make sure those two avenues will be used. I do not believe that anyone on the council should be posting things on the village's website and or Facebook. The single operator of those two sites is the clerk treasurer administrative assistant. From my perspective as manager of the daily operations of the village, this is more conducive to my task of keeping track of village business. Thank you for the interest and concern for your community." And I signed it. So I responded to her and I filled in the blanks, so if she watches the meeting tonight, she can get updated. So I'm still looking for $15,000 in the budget that can be used by the Rising Tide Consultants to brand our community. And the branding would include everyone, township, village, Chamber of Commerce, DDA. It would be a thorough consulting endeavor, but I haven't quite figured out how we could pay for it. So I may come back at you in January if I find something, and I will be talking with those folks between now and next January's meeting, and I can get a little more specific, so.
So this benefits the township as well?
It benefits the entire community in that it makes us a cohesive
Sure.
group as opposed to everybody having their own, the DDA having their own branding, their own logo, which they could end up with their own logos, but there would be a common theme that they would present to us. So for $15,000, it is a deal that they're offering because we are a Rising Tide community. And my impression is that's a pretty inexpensive fee for what would happen. So
Will the township be available, have any funds available to?
quite possibly, DDA might have, Chamber might have. But I gotta get more, I'm throwing that out there, I need more information
Yeah.
for myself as well as
So
you
you
guys.
talk to Stan then too?
I will talk to Stan. We do have a discussion, Stan and I, since our last meeting, had a discussion with respect to us moving out of the building and moving downtown. It's a long-term goal that I've had, is to move all of government services to the downtown area, because I think that's good for the downtown. I know Scott has talked with many of the council regarding his desire to move, and I understand those are valid reasons to do that. We're not gonna get kicked out right away, I don't think, but the seeds have been planted that we may wanna pursue something else. Right now, our budgets are being stretched with our grants that we've got going. I don't see us being able to do anything. An alternative that has been proposed is we could go into the space where the squad car parks and revamp that area, and the DPW could provide office desk space for the president, clerk, treasurer, and all whatever, but I don't think that's adequate for a meeting room
Can we rent
space.
this monthly?
Well, and that,
What do they charge for a once a month meeting?
I don't know.
I think $25.
So,
Somewhere.
anyway, those things are floating out there, I bring them to your attention. Is anything gonna happen right away? I don't think so. But I wanted everybody to be aware of discussions that are happening. So,
Why do they want us out so bad?
That's a good question, I don't know that answer. So.
We talked years ago, when Ron Donaldson was still here, about putting an addition on the village garage and moving everything down there, but we never
Right.
pursued it anymore.
And those are options. The church behind the bar is an option that's been discussed. The lot that the farmer's market was on all summer, that we're proposing a pavilion, that has been discussed as a site for village offices.
Get cold in the winter.
It'd be pretty cold in the winter, but we could put up the tent. Anyway, all of that's floating out there. Where it's gonna go, I don't know, but I'm not too concerned at this point in time that we're gonna be booted out. We have a contract with them anyway, so. But those are issues that we might want to address in the future, so. That's, I think, all that I was gonna, retirement contribution, Rachel's already talked to Brian about that. It's a budget item for next year, and further information will come forth, so. That's it. Go to approval of the bills. We have prepaid to $14,554.27, payroll of $5,887.85, payables of $15,095.57, for a total of $35,537.69. I need a motion to pay the bills.
I make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll support it.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say yes or no to Rachel.
Chad,
Yes.
Art,
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yep.
Patrick.
Yes. Motion has carried. New business, 2017-18 budget. I think everybody's pretty much looked over their departments. There has been a preliminary budget that Rachel has worked on. I think Rob has taken a look at things. Next month, we will have the proposed budget for next year. That's the meeting where we can tweak it. If there's any issues in there that we want addressed, then we will get them changed before our February meeting, which is the meeting that we approve. So, along with the General Appropriations Act, which means that discussion has to begin regarding cost of living increases, if any. And I guess have everything that you want addressed in the budget that we don't find in the January presentation, and we've got to make those changes before. We have some resolutions, or a resolution tonight that will straighten out our current budget. And I guess we can, that's really all I have as far as new business for the new budget, so the new budget year. Anybody have any questions with regard to that? Okay. Action items. Number 1, approve meeting dates for 2017. They are the second Wednesday of every month, being January 11th, February 8th, March 8th, April 12th, May 10th, June 14th, July 12th, August 9th, September 13th, October 11th, November 8th, and December 13th. They will all currently are held here in this space, beginning at 7 p.m. And the office hours are published as Monday through Thursday, and winter hours from 7:45 to 3:45. Summer hours Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4 p.m. Need a motion to approve the meeting dates and hours.
I'll make that motion.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has carried. Okay, the contractor for the park grant, looks like they'd like some money. The information that you have in your packet provides for that. What we are approving is a 142.82.10. The breakdown of all of that, it has been presented to you. If you have any questions, now would be a good time to ask. I think she's covered everything in her email that we printed off. We have not received any of those grant monies and probably won't get the state share until the end. But I asked Rachel to look at our balances, and we won't bounce any checks by writing a check, so we're in good shape. We need a motion to approve the development reimbursement request as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Been moved, any support?
Support.
Been moved and supported. The balance due this payment will be $142,082.10. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, will say yes or no, no to Rachel.
Chapman?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Patton?
Yes.
Butler? Becker?
Make a decision on the floating docks for the park grant. That's the next piece of paper that you have. It has recently come to our attention that the water level is too shallow for the floating docks to tie into the boardwalk system on the west side in the cove by the camping park. Alternatives that were discussed were to have the area dredged to increase the water depth. A permit process and time involved with that option, I think, is so far out into the future that it would hold everything up. I don't see that as a real option. The other option would be to put extensions out from the boardwalk, and then from those extensions, put in the floating dock when the depth is higher. Our issue with that is the removal of those docks and extensions and the replacement of them each spring. We're looking at about a $2,000 bill every year. The third option would be to seek DEQ approval and permits to put in permanent docks in that area. From my perspective, right now, that looks like our best option. Jennifer is gathering information as far as costs. She will hopefully have figures by Friday for that option. And I guess what I would like to see us do, after we've discussed this amongst ourselves, develop a plan, pass a motion to approve that plan, so when she comes through with figures, we can act on it, because we've already approved it. So, any questions with respect to that? Any issues with respect?
Oh, no, I just want to add to what you were saying. When I talked to Jennifer this afternoon, it would just be a permit modification. We'd amend it from a removal dock system to a permanent system, so we would not have to go through the whole system again and pay, I forget what the amount was, but this would be not a full application of the permit. It would just be a modification.
What would they change, the put post in the permanent instead of?
I don't know anything about the permanent system. All I know is the process by which you have to get to the permanent system. We've already got a permit in place that is called, a boardwalk is already in the water, so we've already got a permit to be playing around in the water. And it's called a boardwalk pier permit.
What we would end up with, I think, would be something similar that are at Hanley Lake Cove condos.
Okay.
Those are all permanent docks,
Or the ones that are at the launch.
or the ones that, yeah.
Didn't we have post docks in there once before and the ice took them all out?
No, the west end, which would be the camping park end,
The north end?
the north end will
Yeah.
still be 3 floating,
Right. the
Docks.
north end,
Oh, okay.
that,
We're not changing those, we're just talking
right,
about.
that you just uncouple them,
Okay.
tow them over, and we just drag them up with the back over the loader. That should be pretty simple.
Okay.
The other side, them docks, the Lions Club put them in 45 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were still usable this year. So to not go back to permanent docks there, it's crazy to go to a flotation dock when we can do it if the
That's kind of protected.
DEQ permit us.
We don't get the ice flow there.
we put a snowmobile through the ice there last year. That tells you how thin the ice was.
And that side doesn't get
And that's reality. There's,
much.
permanent docks go west.
And we have an ongoing experiment with the launch docks right now. They're not touching, they're in bigger water than
Mhm.
at the cove, and those haven't budged.
Yeah, they don't have the ice problem like they did on the north.
Right. The north end, you get a south wind in the spring.
Right.
On the north end, all the ice builds up and goes that way. So that's all. River
Well, there
current
was a
keeps it
permanent
out.
dock there for years, before,
Correct.
before
Before
that
Got the
happened.
right weather, yeah.
Before we got a big ice storm, you know?
So Jennifer seems to think that that would be a less expensive avenue to begin with.
Mhm.
And so
Got it would.
I'm encouraged that all might happen.
And I talked to Jack today a little bit too, the contractor that we have, and he said the exact same thing. That he thought that would be less money than the floating docks.
Well, that would save you the pulling of them.
He doesn't have to pay a private contractor on the private docks.
So every year you would save the cost of
Quite
pulling
a
them.
bit.
5 years, you're saving $10,000.
Yeah. So you could do repairs on them if they were necessary for less than that.
I think that option is a good one, personally.
And it'll coincide with our current grant or,
Right.
Jennifer's checking with whoever that is from the Economic Alliance to make sure, because there is a possibility, because we stated floating docks to the DNR grant.
Well,
So-
she should have all the answers by Friday.
But she kind of thought, since we're kind of paying for the docks out of our own pocket, that it shouldn't affect the grant.
Well, in essence, we're not paying for it.
But in essence, we are. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well,
Depends on how you want to look at it.
the Rising Tide grant is what was gonna pay for those.
Right.
And that's still okay. However, I got an email last night at 8:20 from Dan Leonard, who's our rep for this. And he needed more specific information with respect to the docks. And I said, well, this is what's happened in over the weekend. And he said, well, that's good, because if there's gonna be changes, this is what I need to know. So, he also, I'm gonna talk about that. He also needed to know, more specifically what the pavilion was gonna cost, other than the proposal that was done up by Jennifer and Gordy Frazier's. So I asked Lyle Lovelace if he would be willing to do that for us, and he said he would. And he should have numbers for a pavilion by Monday. So I will talk with Dan Leonard tomorrow and fill him in on what we have done and where we're headed. So I think we're in good shape. So, do we want to
Make a motion of it.
Yeah,
make a motion to pursue the permanent dock
absolutely.
alternative? And if it comes in as we anticipate for less money and it is all doable, then we proceed accordingly.
I can make that motion if you like,
All right,
that we go to permanent docks.
We'll support.
permanent docks on the west end, the north end will remain as floating docks. Bill, you supported?
I do.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has carried. We're not spending any different monies, so there's no. Performance resolution for government agencies. This is the first time we've had this. It comes from MDOT, but Sam, you sign something every year to allow us.
That's totally different, Larry. I believe what you're signing now is, Rachel, quote me if I'm wrong, is this on health insurance? It says we're in compliance
No,
with
this
other agencies?
This is Scott.
The road closure one.
Oh, okay.
I'll
It's another one.
when I first came here, Sam pulled all the permits and then he dumped it off on me, so I started to do it now, I dumped it off on Rachel, so, like collectively, we all kind of freaking it. This year's the first year that MDOT is requiring that the village actually passes a resolution. And I guess the purpose would be, and I talked to Larry, is that either Sam, myself, or Rachel are not arbitrarily just closing roads and, you know, just doing whatever we want. It's your guys' prerogative to say when we're gonna close roads and stuff like that. They just asked if we do it by resolution to show that somewhere down the road, they could come back and say, yes, the village knew about it, yes, the village gave permission, and yes, that's where we're at. What happens is, once you pass that resolution, then we also have to pull permits specifically for the 4th of July parade and for the car show and we have to do those 30 days out in advance of those. It's kind of a little cluster, but typically we pull that annual permit at the beginning of the year, and it gives us permission to not only close the roads whenever we think we need to, but, you know, if Sam has to close a road for water mains and stuff like that, so it covers us all the way around for
So they're
everything.
eliminating that document,
Which one?
the one that we've been signing each year? that
No, we-
gives you
We, no, they eliminated that one right there for a few years, Larry.
Oh,
We used to sign that document every year.
okay, so they've
Yes.
eliminated that, and this replaces that?
Yes.
All right,
Well, kind of in a roundabout way. We still have to do everything on computer, which is a real headache and a real time-consuming effort, so. But, and it's, the sad part about it is every time we get into it, it's just a cluster, because we can't remember how we did it the previous year, and it changes, and so we have to muster through it, so. That's just their new formality that they want us to do for this program, so. And then next year, it'll probably change, so.
yeah. Okay, so what I need is a motion to approve performance resolution for governmental agencies.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Been moved and supported. I'm not gonna read the whole motion. And if anybody's interested from the public, they can come in and read it, so. We have a motion. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion has carried. This is the document, mutual agreement records management system that Scott is asking us to approve, which will allow us and the other communities in the county to seek a grant for a new records management system. And if possible, then it will hopefully save us money down the road. So, everybody, we got this just prior to the meeting. If you haven't had a chance to read it over, I'll give you 30 seconds so you can, unless you tell me you've already read it. So,
I've read it.
you read it too, Leila? All right.
Yeah, make a motion that we authorize this.
All right.
I'll support.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? I think Scott explained it pretty well in his report. So, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Bet. Resolution number 1, budget resolution number 1. This Rachel said she wasn't gonna have ready until January, but she found time to do it. So I'm gonna let her explain what she has done, why she has done it, and anybody have any questions after that? Go ahead.
There'll be another one in January. I
Okay,
just remembered, I didn't do this 142 that we're gonna be
okay.
for the grant. Basically, up here in the 101, I just pulled money from certain line items to cover other line items that were over and budgeted amounts. In the campground, we didn't budget anything for the campground improvements. And basically, we're pulling 28,000 from the fund balance to cover, all the charges that we've had. Sewer miscellaneous, that was basically, we're increasing the miscellaneous income because we took in that money and we just paid it back out to the contractors, and contracted services. Water, we had, all the water testing. So we had to appropriate money in for that. And then I pulled money from large equipment purchases because we had budgeted 35,000 and there was only 26,000 that was used. So we had some money there to work with. to go into the equipment rental and, contracted services. And as far as the equipment,